All right, so we went over these. Talked about the internet. We talked about growth, invest. Had those. We did that one where I erased. Did we stop here or did we stop here? I can't remember. Did we stop on the car? Oh, we're supposed to do it because I didn't do it, right? Okay, thank you. And I don't know why this is. I tell you, you buy these licenses for internet stuff and it gets all goofy. All right, so let me just make sure I can remember this. So the car decreases by 0.16. So that's the rate. So that means it will be 1 minus 0.16, which we came up with. That was 84% is what our car would be worth each year. And then estimate the value after 2 years. And then estimate when the car will have a value of 12,000. Okay, 12,000 is half the value, yes? So I have 12,000 is equal to, originally it was 24,000. Am I correct? And then the 0.84 is here, and we're going to raise that to the t value. T is in years. So there's a couple of ways that we can kind of look at this type of problem. But it's kind of strange because I have this exponent that's still going to be there. So I could shorten this a little bit. I could say let's divide both sides by 24,000. So those cancel, which that's going to give me 0.5 equals 0.84 raised to the t. Okay. So how should we approach this problem, do you think? So we're looking about when would our car be worth half its value? So I haven't taught you how to bring an exponent down front yet. So how do you think you might approach it? Any ideas? Any thoughts? I mean, I guess we could plug, if we plug 1 in for t, we'd wind up with 0.84 is equal to 0.5. No, that's not going to work. I could probably go 0.84 is raised to the second power. If I did that on a calculator, that might be one way of approaching it. So if I just did 0.84 squared, oops, wrong button, 0.84 squared. So if I did 0.84 squared, that gives me 0.7056. Maybe you go 0.84 raised to the third power. And we're just trying to do some guess and check. That gives me 0.5927. So it's starting to get closer. 0.84 raised to the fourth power. 0.84 raised to the fourth is 0.4978. Is this pretty close? Is 0.4978 pretty darn close to 0.5? So do you see how I kind of went through it and I just kind of was guesstimating? So I would say that t is about 4 years. So in about 4 years, our car is worth half the value it originally had been worth, we had purchased it for. Okay. Does that happen with cars? Sure. Cars lose value. Yes, there is a time that you can have a car for long enough that you fixed up and you've not driven anywhere and it's in an airtight container and it increases the value. I get it. That happens with cars. But for the vehicle that you drive every day, it's very rare that it's going to increase in value. Okay? Now, I realize that some people, they're going to put fancier wheels and tires and stereo systems and tinted windows and fancier paint job. And they're like, yeah, I got like $80,000 worth of stuff in this car that's worth $5,000. car dealership literally looks at it and goes, well, it's got 4 wheels, 4 tires, it's got a stereo. Great. That's what it already had. No, but this is better. I'm only going to give you what it's worth. So a lot of people invest a lot of money into vehicles because they like vehicles, and that's fine. I'm not trying to take away from it, but it's not a good investment strategy. And I've listened to it all along. I have plenty of friends. They have fancy older vehicles they've put lots of money into. But the thing is, you're not necessarily going to get what you put into it back out of it. Okay? Not everybody wants that. Okay, so what did we learn about finding compound interest? Well, you had some principal amount. 1 plus r over n raised to the nt was one of the equations. Or we had 1 plus r raised to the t. So those are basically the two that we have looked at. We have one that compounds different amounts of times throughout the year. We have one that just compounds each year. There's going to be one more that we're going to deal with, and it looks like this kind of equation. A equals P times the exponential raised to the RT. A lot of times they call this PERT equation. It looks like it spells the word PERT. Yes, you have. The RT is a raised exponent. This means it's continuously compounding. Okay? So it's kind of the ins and outs of it. So, and that's what we're talking about, continuously compounding, where A is the amount in the account, R is the rate as the decimal, and T is time in years. Okay? This, for the most part, is how you should think about, like, oh, it's springtime. We're going to start seeing something out in the yards as we are walking to our homes and leaving school and even walking across campus. But it's called bunnies. Bunnies grow exponentially because they have more bunnies, and then those bunnies have more bunnies, and those bunnies have more bunnies. And you get to a point where you realize, look at all these dead spots in my yard, because a bunny will sit there in your yard and eat the grass all the way down to the dirt, and then like move an inch, and then do the same thing, and then move an inch. They are destructive little critters, so they continuously grow. Now, if you're like my neighbor basically takes bunnies as target practice. Me, I trap them in a safe trap, and I drive them down to Highlands Ranch and let them go. And I'm sure the people in Highlands Ranch trap them and drive them up to Littleton and let them go in my neighborhood. I'm sure that's how the whole thing works. So let's talk. So this is a little bit more of how things grow. A lot of times it's done with money. So $8,000 is deposited in an account that earns 8% annual interest, and then we'll say compounded yearly, quarterly, monthly, and then continuously. So 8% I have to realize is 0.08. That's my rate. So if it's compounded yearly, and we're doing $8,000, so we're going to go A equals 8,000. 1 plus 0.08 raised to the R. $8,000 is deposited in an account that pays 8% annual interest. So this would be compounded yearly. This would be compounded quarterly. Quarterly means 4. Compounded monthly. There's 12 months. So you go 12 times T. And compounded continuously. A to the RT, so the 0.08 T. Okay, so that's the difference in the equations. They will all come very close to the same values. Okay, compounded once a year versus compounded continuously versus quarterly or monthly, it will all be about the same thing. Can I move on? I don't even know where I'm at on these notes. I should have looked earlier, but I'm not that effective. Okay, cool. Yeah, it does not ask. It doesn't tell us how much in years, does it? So those are just basically set up to that type of thing. So the very last question we'll talk about is this. Use your graphing calculator to graph and answer the questions involving $800 invested for X years at a rate of 2.4%. Compounded quarterly, find the value after 6 years, find the value after 9.4 years. When will the account have 1,200 in the account? So again, we're using the graphing calculator, which will work. Actually, I'm going to use Desmos. So let's jump here, desmos.com. Start graphing. I have to go back to this and look. All right, so I'm going to write this down. We have 800.024. So we want quarterly after 6 years, 9.4 years, and then when will it have 1,200 in it? Okay. So we have A equals 800 times 1 plus 0.024 over 4 raised to the 4 times t. And then this is 6 years, 9 years. And when will it be? When will A equals 1,200? Okay. So yes, I can plug into my calculator and plug values in, but I want you to see graphically what's taking place. All right, going back to Desmos. So I have y equals, my equation is 800 parentheses 1 plus 0.024. That's divided by 4. Oops. And this is going to be raised to the 4t. Oops. Okay, these are 4x. All right, so we have this kind of graph here. Okay, I'm not worried about negative values necessarily. So I'm going to adjust the graph. To here. Okay, so think about this. The t value is our x value. It's on the x-axis. So we want to know when is it going to have, what it will have in 6 years, what will it have in 9.4 years, and then when in years would it be worth 1,200? The 6 years and the 9.4 years are both x values. So if I were to graph x equals 6, and the other equation is x equals 9.4, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the blue one first. So it looks like it's going to, so it looks like after 6 years of this money growing, we will have $923.51 in it. So we basically made $123.51. So that's the first one. So let me write that down. So 6. So after 6 years, we're going to have $923.51. So I want to look at this green one now. So I have to adjust my graph a little bit so I can see where it intersects. And I can get rid of the blue. I don't need the blue anymore. So it looks like at 9.4 years, we're going to have $1,001.78. Okay, so your money is compounding on top of itself. The last one says, hey, when are we going to have $1,200 in this account? So I'm going to get rid of the X. The 1,200 is a Y value, so I'm going to make a horizontal line at 1,200. It's not going to show up yet because I just need to adjust this. I'm at 1075, 1078, 1100, almost there. So it looks like in this particular account at 16.945 years, I would have $1,200 in my account. So almost 17 years, I would get up to $1,200. Okay? All right, so my friends, can I show you a real life application of how this really works? And I'm going to show you a personal way that this guy here has invested. So there are three things that I never get from the internet. I don't get medical advice from the internet. I don't take financial advice from the internet. And I don't care about political affiliation of people on the internet. I don't pay attention to any of that. Okay? Have you heard the term slow and steady wins the race? Okay? So this has everything to do with what this unit is. It has nothing to do with what would be on the homework. Okay? So many years ago, in fact, in 1989, I was a senior in high school, and my grandfather was doing my taxes for 1988. My grandfather was an IRS auditor. He wanted us, it was horrible when my grandfather would do our taxes because he would be so mad that we lost the receipt for 17 cents and we couldn't show that we paid tax on this 17 cents. It was horrible. But what he showed me was there was one point I was actually a service writer. I was selling car washes and detail work and lube and oils and radiator flushes for cars. And I was making a great deal of money in 1989 and 1988, being a senior in high school doing it. So what had happened, and I know some of you might have your own jobs, but there is a point where you start making too much money that you no longer fall under the exempt category. So this car wash I worked for, basically, because he had a bunch of high school kids, always said on your taxes, choose exempt. Okay? If you chose exempt, that basically meant you didn't make enough money for the federal government to worry about you paying taxes on. Okay? You're a high school kid. We realize we're going to wait till you make a lot of money, then we're going to tax you. But unfortunately, I made too much money as a service writer. I was a good sales rep. I convinced people to pay an extra couple dollars to get this car wash, or invest a couple of dollars here to get your floor mat shampooed, or your seats and carpet shampooed, or your car waxed, or polished and waxed, or steam clean your engine, or you need an oil change, and with the oil change, your car will run cooler if we change out the radiator fluid as well. These are all things that I would persuade people to do for their car. And I had a really good network of people, of customers, that came to me because I wasn't an in-your-face, you have to do. I was always the salesman saying, yeah, you might be spending $6 on the cheap wash today, but next time you might actually spend $50 getting a little bit higher thing done. So what had happened is I made too much money. And the federal government is saying, all right there, Chris Stirrup, senior in high school, we want our money. So my grandfather is going, oh my gosh, I can't believe your car wash would have you choose exempt when you're making this much money. And I looked at my grandpa going, I'm just a kid. I didn't know. I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm like, woohoo, yay. But I made too much money. So my grandfather said, okay. The damage is done. You have a choice. You can pay the federal government this much money. Because that's what you owe in taxes. Or what you can do is you can take that $2,000 and invest it in an account that you cannot touch until you are 59 and a half years old. Now, I'm 18 years old. 59 and a half, that's a long way off. If I chose to invest this $2,000, this would take what I owe the federal government down to owe them about $300. So now I'm looking at it as I'm still out $2,300, but I really wasn't because I was going to start saving for my future. Okay? So I took that $2,000. I listened to my grandfather. I had the $2,000 because I had a savings account in which I was putting my paychecks in. I'd spend a couple dollars here or there because I'd go out to eat and do whatever. But at 59 and a half, now I'm 50. At 59 and a half, I could take this money. And this $2,000 went into something called an IRA at the time, which is called an individual retirement account. Now, I can put that money into this individual retirement account. It is called a tax sheltered annuity, meaning I can put a certain amount in, and the federal government, no matter how much money I make on this in the stock market, the federal government's not going to charge me in taxes. Okay, so it was a way of saving money. So I did. I said, okay. Now, this IRA has had to change over the years because my tax structure has changed as a person. I am making more money than when I was selling car washes and detail and lube and oils. I've gotten married. My wife and I definitely make more money than what I was making. I have children. So I'm paying out for my children, and I get tax credits because of my children. Okay, these are all things. So this IRA has basically changed over the years. But I will tell you that this $2,000, for the most part, if I could say that was the only thing I ever invested in, from 1989 to 2021. How many years is this, my friends? 32 years? At a very, very modest, very, very conservative number. This money earned 5% interest. And it compounds continuously. So if I use the equation I just had as this equation, if I truly track this money, and this was the only money I ever invested, it's going to work like this. 2,000. E is the exponential. Rate is 0.05. Time, 32 years. Okay. Now again, I didn't just track this money. I didn't look at this money. I just kind of invested this money. Let's see. I got to find my exponential. Second E. 0.05 times 32. So right now, if I had truly just tracked that one single individual account, and that account had never changed out from being an IRA, my original $2,000 is now worth $9,906.06. Now I can assure you, my friends, I have definitely saved a lot more money than that in my lifetime. But you think about this. The money went from 2,000 to 9,000. So it more than quadrupled. Now I'm talking about when I was a kid. In the year 1989, minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. Now what are we doing? We're trying to get to 15 an hour, aren't we? Ay, ay, ay. Now, my friends, again, if this is my only investment, I'd say I'm in really, really bad shape. And I'm looking to retire in like 10 years, maybe 15. But I can assure you, I've invested so much more into so many more items than that. But what I did and what was on my side originally in 1989 till I turned 59 and a half, which is basically 2030. God, that's coming up. I would eventually be able to touch that money and spend that money how I'd like to see fit. I could take it all as one lump sum. I could take a little bit out at a time. I could reinvest it. It's just my thing. But again, this is just a small monetary amount. Is $2,000 a lot of money? Well, perhaps to you it might be. To me in 1989, $2,000 was the entire world. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to pay $2,000. Yeah, you pay $2,000, you only have to give the federal government $300. Well, that means I'm out $2,300, Grandpa. Don't look at it that way. Now, my numbers might be a little bit off. I don't know if I just made truly 5%. I would say right now, if you were to look at just the stock market in general, if you were to look at NASDAQ or the S&P or the New York Stock Exchange, this is time. This is money. And that's what the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the Dow, any of those, they look like. They grow at an exponential rate. And the unfortunate thing is too many people, when they look at the stock market, they look at one little thing. You all know that a lot of times somebody will say a whole sentence. I'll give you an example. I was an assistant principal. This is 20 years ago. I had a kid named Erasmo de la Fuente that comes into my office. He was a frequent flyer. He was a bad kid. He was involved in gang activities. His family was very immersed into the gang lifestyle. He would say things to teachers that y'all would just be like, you can't be serious. And I can assure you. So Erasmo shows up in my office. I am an assistant principal for about half of the year at this point. And I was like, Erasmo, what happened? This teacher doesn't like me. You're right. So I'm reading the referral, and the teacher basically says on the referral, student came to class without any materials for class. I gave him a pencil. He broke the pencil and told me to bad word. Z. So Erasmo, why'd you break the pencil? Because she hates me. She gave you a pencil. Erasmo flips out. At that point, the school police officer, whose office was adjacent to my office, comes walking in. He's kind of leaning against the wall, just looking at this kid, and this kid is going out of control. So I let him flip out a little bit until he goes and he starts to attack my wife, who had nothing to do with this, and I didn't have children at the time. So I go to a coaching bark, and I tell Erasmo that if he continues to act in this type of behavior, that he's going to amount to nothing in life. And I probably shouldn't have said it, but it was out of the heat of a moment. I was younger. I was 30 years old. I was an idiot. So I said to Erasmo that. And it gets back, and all of a sudden, Grandma is in my office, and she is laying into me about how dare me tell Erasmo that he's going to amount to nothing in life. Well, he took an entire phrase that I said and took a little piecewise out of it, which is unfortunate. So my point on that is if the stock market, if you watch any of the stock market stuff, you see this. So if this is time, and this is money, is it growing? Yeah, and the real unfortunate thing, and this is what you really have to look out for, my friends, when you decide you want to start just doing a saving type of scenario. We're going to call this 2008. And unfortunately, people look at that and say, the sky is falling. Sell everything. That's supposed to be sell. That's two L's. Okay, because they looked at a small little inkling. And we're convincing people to sell everything, even for a loss. It's better you lose $500,000 than lose it all, right? Oh yeah, I better sell. So what happened is all these people start selling. And when they start selling, that drives the price of that particular stock or mutual fund down. Over time, did this graph grow? Yeah. You know who was so happy to convince people that the sky is falling? The billionaires. Oh, you bought this stock at $50 a share, but you sold it at $20 a share, so you lost $30 a share on buying that stock? Yeah, it's better that I lose that much. The billionaire says, oh, great, I'll go ahead and buy it at 20 a share. So let's say that drops down to 20 per share, but here it jumps up to 80 per share. So this billionaire took millions upon millions and put it in and bought it at 20 a share, and now it's worth 80 a share. And that billionaire became even a bigger billionaire because the knee-jerk reaction of society of, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, and I heard it on the internet, or I read it on the internet. My friend posted something on Facebook. Therefore, it's the gospel truth. No, don't look at it that way. Because if you look at the smooth regression, it does this. And that's the real situation that's taking place. Not the sky is falling, that the market's crashing, you need to sell everything in panic. Okay? Have you heard on the radio or any of your broadcasts you ever listened to? Have you ever heard about how people are trying to convince people to sell everything and invest in gold? Have you ever heard this? Yes, gold is a great thing. There is a finite amount of gold on this planet. Okay, yes, can we find some more? Yes, we can find some more. Are we finding this much? No, we're not. No. But they keep convincing people, I invest in gold. And they have celebrities coming on TV. You know, hi, I'm Tom Selleck. I played Magnum PI, and I play, I buy gold because I do this. Dude, you're a multimillionaire. You're telling the person who's making $100,000 a year because you do this, you should do this? No, that gold company's paying you to do it. Is gold a good investment? Oh, yeah, it's a really good investment. Based on what? I read it on the internet. My friends, the slow and steady. Now, I wasn't born here. I was born here in 1970. Okay? But if you choose to invest slowly and conservatively over time, your money, when you choose to retire, will come back and pay back in large amounts of dividends. And again, the three main things I would ask you all, if you never got anything out of my class, the three main things I want you to always focus on is your Snapchat, your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever social media comes out, TikTok, I don't care what it is. That is entertainment. It is pure and true entertainment. It is not financial advice. It is not political advice. And for crying out loud, don't let it make you choose to invest. I read something on the internet that said this. Oh my gosh. Everybody and their cousin could tell you right now, boy, you shouldn't have invested in Bitcoin like 10 years ago. Yeah, there's an awful lot of stocks I should have invested in like 10 years ago. But there's awful a lot of stocks that I should not have invested in 10 years ago. And people say, oh, Bitcoin did this. Yeah, but there was 54 other online currency companies at the same time as Bitcoin, in which two of them are left. So who's the wiser? Yeah, someone who invested in Bitcoin originally, they got lucky. Of all the others, a lot of people invested in those and they unfortunately lost money. Not every one of them is going to be a home run. All right, so my friends, that's all I have to talk about this. What I would like you to do is 9D. I will have a video for Monday, and I will go over those problems. Okay, because you know that we don't meet online on Monday, right? So when I would see you, depending upon your cohort, Tuesday or Wednesday, obviously this class is Tuesday, I would check off that 9D. But I would have the video. I'm not going to go over any questions on it because I will hopefully go over all of 9D. Then on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending upon your cohort, we'll go over I will teach a little bit about 9E. I think you have 9E in here, yes? So please bring this back. And then on the second day of next week, so Thursday or Friday, depending on the cohort, we will quiz from 9A to 9E. Okay? Deal? Can I stop recording? I hope I didn't take you on too